Hi everyone, this is Santosh. I'm working in IT industry almost for 18 years and currently working as a solution architect. I'm going to share my experience with you on how I passed the AWS Solution Architect Professional exam. We'll be discussing a few points in this video. Um, First of all, this video is not uh, the technical video. I'm not going through the technical details of the exam, the scope of the exam, or the what types of questions will come, because there is a lot of online material available for that, which you might already have gone through or maybe planning for that. So this video is more about my experience on how I prepared for the exam, um, different tips, tricks, or techniques that I followed. Also, I got to know those techniques as part of my study or learning, so that I can share those with you, which could help you in your preparation, if that works for you. Okay, so let's get started. The first point is why we need certification. These are the few points which I came up with. You might have some other reasons. So the first one is working on AWS projects. So if you're working on AWS project, then that is a very basic need for someone to start learning AWS or preparing for the certification, right? So this is an obvious reason for you to look forward for the certification. Second is best. It's a best way to learn AWS at the same time showcase your expertise. So you started learning AWS, you know few services in detail, you are using it in your project. Now, why not to showcase your expertise to the outside world? If you pass the certification, you can put that in your resume. You can put it on your social media sites, and you can put it in your skills database. So that is like making best use of your skills. People will know that you have those skills. It can be used in other projects as well. So it's a best way to showcase your skills that you have. Third is gain and evaluate your skills outside your project area. If you're working on a project, you might be using very specific set of AWS services, because there are hardly any projects which use bunch of or lot of AWS services. So certification is something that gives you an opportunity to learn outside, or go beyond the scope of your project. So that way you learn the other services, you learn the broader spectrum of AWS services, and at the same time you get those skills evaluated. So it's not just learning or going through the documentation, but you have to pass the exam. So you have to study it, you have to remember it, and uh, uh, give the correct answers during the exam. So your skills get evaluated. So the certification gives you that confidence that now you know the services in and out, and you can, given the opportunity, you can make use of the services in your project. Okay, so the next point is why AWS professional certification. So we discussed why we need certification, because you are working on AWS project. But why are a professional certification? So the first point is it's recommended or required for an architect level person. So if you are working as architect in your project, you must be designing a solution for a given problem or a given requirement by customer. You must be making a lot of crucial decisions, like what service to use, how the infrastructure should be deployed or created, how the application should be deployed, what AWS services should be used. So in order to make those crucial decisions, you need to have a very good understanding of the given platform, in this case, which is AWS. So the professional certification basically gives you a broader spectrum of AWS services, which service can be used at what place, the best suitable place for each service. So that kind of skills you get as part of the professional certification. A lot of companies make it mandatory to have a professional certification. If you don't have, they will ask you to plan for it if you're working at architect level. Also, even if you really have those skills as part of your experience, uh, taking a professional exam basically enhances your skills and make sure like you are on a right track. Second point is understand and utilize AWS provided well architectural practices wherever possible. So what this means is as part of the preparation for the exam or passing the exam, you get to know a lot of well architectural practices that AWS has. And while designing the solution, you can make best use of those practices. So the next point is technical preparation. So as I mentioned, I'm not going into the details of the technical preparation. I'm just going to share how I prepared, what I prepared, and different techniques for those. So the first is online courses. There are a lot of online courses available for the Solution Architect Professional exam. You can go to the different learning websites, purchase those courses and go through it. And you will get in-depth understanding of all the AWS services with respect to the professional exam. I personally went through I think 2 or 3 online courses, and those are pretty lengthy online courses, like 5 hours, 6 hours. So you have to dedicate a time for that because you have your project work, you have your personal stuff. So it takes a lot of time to uh, go through those online courses. But I recommend you go through online courses because that's where you get the real learning of the services, which help you to uh, pass the exam. Now the next is practice exams. Okay, now you went through online courses and you have a lot of information or understanding in back of your mind. Now how to best use that information in the exam. So this is where the practice exams play a vital role. When you can purchase the practice exams from the similar learning websites. When you are going through the practice exams, you can set a timer or you can, I think, take the exams without a time limit. But the main thing is when you are taking the exam and if you don't get the adequate score, don't get disappointed because that's why the practice exams are for. Maybe initially you will not get the correct score, you may not be able to come up with the correct answer. But when you now review the questions and you say that this is the correct answer, what you do is go back to your online courses and study that topic again and see why that correct answer is correct and why the incorrect answers are incorrect. So that way you can basically refresh your that specific topic from your online courses with respect to the question that is in the exam. Go lot of practice exams because that way you will understand the pattern of questions, what types of questions are asked. That way you can focus on those specific uh, areas of the service instead of like just understanding or learning everything. Uh, Other resources that I use are like a lot of blogs and YouTube videos, same like the technical videos or the experience that people share about the exam, because this helps you to prepare for the exam. Because preparing or having technical understanding is one thing, but preparing it in a right way, exam oriented way is another thing. So you need to learn both the things. Next point is time management during the exam. So as I mentioned at the beginning, time management is very crucial for the exam because you have 75 questions and you have to answer those in 180 minutes. So it is almost 2 minutes and 40 seconds for each question. But that doesn't mean you have to spend 2 minutes and 40 seconds on each and every question. We'll see why that's not the case. So first point in terms of the time management or during the exam in general is be calm and stress free. Uh, as I said, it's a 180 minutes exam, so it's 3 hours, literally speaking, and you have to answer 75 questions. A lot of questions are lengthy. The question is lengthy. 4 options are lengthy. 4 or 5 options are lengthy, and you have to read through it, understand it. So you need to be very calm and stress free because if you are stressed out and if you lose your concentration, you will be losing time eventually, and that impacts or that affects your ability to answer the further questions. So be calm and stress free is very important. What I would suggest is don't take the exam right after your work day or on the work day, or what we can do is schedule it over the weekend if it is possible or if it is available. If not, then take a 1 day off and take the exam on that day, because if you take the exam right after your work, you might be not in the right mindset to answer those questions correctly or recall all your learning at the time of exam. Next point is perform first pass of all questions as quickly as possible. So I have seen a lot of people saying you need to perform multiple passes of the questions during your exam, but it's really difficult because there are 75 questions. So and questions are not easy. I mean, many questions are not easy. So having multiple passes is really difficult, but what I recommend is at least have 2 passes. So perform first pass of questions as quickly as possible. That means when the exam is started and you see the first question, read the question, read the options, whichever is the right option that you feel, select that option and move forward. Um, Keep doing the same for all the questions until you complete all 75 questions. At the same time, I mean, look at the timer, but don't spend a lot of time on some complex question. First, one thing to note is, I think that's my next point, answer small and comparatively easy questions in less than a minute. So if you see some questions, basically there will be a lot of questions like that, having small question and the small or the not lengthy options. So read through it quickly. It could be most probably a easy question. So give the answer and move quickly. So basically you are spending less than a minute or maybe 30-40 seconds for that question, so that you can use that time for the complex questions. Next point is mark only those questions for review for which you are not sure about the answer and move on. So let's take an example. You have a lengthy questions, at the same time it is complex. So you read through the question and you are thinking of the answer and you are not coming up with the right answer. So you have almost spend, let's say, 2 minutes so far. So what you do is whatever the correct answer you feel at that point, select that answer and move forward. One thing to keep in mind is that don't leave any question unanswered, because if you're lucky enough, that answer could be correct, but give some answer and move on and mark that question for review so that you can read it thoroughly in a review round if you get time. The last point is keep at least 30 minutes for reviewing the question mark for review. So as I said, perform your first pass as quickly as possible. Now, let's say, for example, you have 30 minutes remaining and you have to now review the question. So start from beginning, go through the entire question set, see which questions are marked for review, read those questions properly again, because you have read through those questions earlier, but read it again thoroughly and see if you get some clue. One important point is when you perform the first pass of all the questions, basically you might get some clue from the other questions to answer this question. So that's the reason make sure you go through all the questions in first pass, because there is a good chance that you will get a clue for the answer of your unanswered question as part of those remaining questions. My case, I think it was almost 25 questions I marked for review and 40 minutes were remaining. So this is really important. When I saw that I have 40 minutes remaining and I have 25 questions, it gave me a lot of comfort level that I have enough time. So I went back, read those questions thoroughly, I changed answer of a lot of questions. That's really true that you get a clue for answers of questions from the other questions. So I changed the answers and I answer those questions and pass the exam. So the key point is keep some time for review. If you have more time for review, it gives you a comfort and it will help you to recall the things in better way. If you run out of time, it will for sure going to impact your ability to answer the questions correctly. Thanks for watching this video. I hope this will help you preparing for the exam. All the best.